Hello friends and enemies. We are saying goodbye to the old year and ringing in the new with the winged victory of Samothrace. So this is a table museum figure. If you're not familiar, they are Figma Max Factory figures that replicate usually older works of art dating all the way back to ancient times. I don't think we've gotten anything out of this line that I would consider to be modern. Anyway, I thought it would be cool to review Victory right before the new year, maybe just to provide us with a little bit of hope that everything is gonna be okay, that there's some things worth fighting for. Never give up, never surrender. The holidays are fun, but heading into a new year has always filled me with a sense of dread. But with victory in mind, anything is possible. Set your eyes to the skies, reach for the stars, and land on the moon. Yeah, I'm very fond of these table museum pieces. They do run pretty expensive, but if you are an art history fan, they're really cool things to have. They're a lot more expressive than you would think. So if you peer back into this packaging, Victory will come with a cardboard insert. The insert has perforated edges. You can punch that out and assemble it into kind of a little stand, a little plaque for it to sit on. I'm not going to do that, but the option is there. Clamshell action. Speaking of clamshell, we also have Venus de Milo that we haven't opened yet, so that will be a future review at some point. This is a thick manual. I wonder if there's some information in here for us. She seems to have a lot more parts than these usually do, mainly in the form of her gown. The gown is in segments, so you should be able to pose it like it's flowing with the wind. It does come with the option of attaching arms and a head, but you have to have a separate figure for that. You actually have to have the Venus de Milo for that. And I was mistaken just a moment before. We do have Venus, but it's the birth of Venus. We don't have Venus de Milo. So our winged victory will be headless, probably forever, but at least for now. But that's not so bad. So you get a stand, you get a little baggie for any extra parts to go into. She's gently wrapped in this wax paper. But as weird as it to say, or maybe not weird, because this is a kind of, classic statue, I like her better without the arms and the head. So if you do happen to have Venus de Milo and you want to give Victory a head and some arms, which is very nice of you, you swap this torso piece out with this one, attach the head, the arms, reattach the wings. These pegs in here are removable. They are just to keep these holes viable so they don't shrink. So unfortunately, since we don't have arms and a head, I'm going to be leaving this out today. But here's a look at it. It's got a bit more color on it than the base torso does. It's a little bit more gray in spots, and then the bottom is more beige, whereas this is more of a uniform, like off-white and light gray. It would be cool if she came with her own extra body parts, but I understand. I mean, in reality, she doesn't have those. She did at one point, and they've been lost to history. What is this hole for? Is it for a stand? I don't know. I believe it's to unpeg one of these robe pieces, and then you can peg it back here for more dynamic posing. I'm a little nervous to do that. I really don't enjoy articulated clothing. I don't like messing with all that. Let's put her other wing in. These are very nicely sculpted wings. Nicely articulated. The hinge joint here can only go up and down. There's no forward or back with this. So in reality, this statue is meant to be poised on top of the bow of a boat. Here, she's just on a simple, marble block. And I understand that would have added a lot to the figure. That probably would have been a lot of an extra cost. It would have made the packaging bigger, but I really would have liked to have had that boat. As it is, it looks really impressive. I mean, I don't know how much it can do given what its subject matter is. This sculpture was said to be Nike, goddess of victory, alighting a warship. So they think that one arm would have been down to her side a little bit and the other arm would have been raised up in the air. So a cool detail I noticed is you will see that the back of the wings differ. This one is a stony kind of texture. This one has the same stony texture, but there seems to be metal framing along it. And that's because much of this statue was rebuilt in the 1800s. So actually this entire wing was rebuilt with plaster. This one was reattached with a metal frame. So the manner in which they found this statue was even less complete than what we see nowadays. Anyway, enough with the history lesson. Let's look at articulation. I'm very curious what this can actually do. I'm not expecting much. Table museum, typically more for form over function. I mean, what's the function of an action figure? But I am perfectly fine with that. These look great. You can sometimes get them into silly little positions. But if you can't do much with them, that doesn't really bother me. There's that wing articulation at the junction of the wing and the shoulder. We do get some twist at the torso. And get some crunch too. Now the legs are where I'm having a lot of questions. Here is this, oh, the wings can twist. Okay, I'm just now realizing that. It's just that you have to position it in a certain way for it to do that. So you can achieve forward and back as long as you are careful about it. We've got a bit of clothing flapping in the wind. Let's remove her from this base. I'm just afraid that once I get all these pieces unattached from one another, I'll never be able to get them the same in the same configuration ever again. All right, so this is a knee. It's just very awkward because she doesn't have any visible feet. The anatomy underneath kind of flows into the fabric and then just stops abruptly. So you've got a hinge on that knee, and this piece kind of moves with it. And this, you should be able to unplug, I think, according to the instructions. And then you can replug it back here as another flowing piece. The whole thing is held together with these tiny little pegs and holes. This is a little nerve-wracking. It's just so many moving parts that are all supposed to slot together in its default state. You've got another knee here. Be careful because I did easily take off her leg. It was a little, oh, there it goes again. It's hard to get back on. And I think now that I've taken it off, it's just going to keep coming off. This is another one, I think, that you put in one pose and don't touch. As opposed to like the Scream. That one's really fun to play around with. It's very simple. There's no messing around with clothing or anything like that. Yeah, you've got some more articulated robe right here. Let me put her leg back on. So kudos to whoever took on the monumental task of engineering this. I mean, it's cool. It would drive me crazy because even just messing with it is driving me crazy, but it is neat. This leg is very finicky. Okay. So you can do a flying pose, which is really awesome. And like I said, you have this stand. So if you want to have her flying, you should be able to. There's a little peg back here. Insert that. So that's a really cool inclusion. I like that. I think it's probably worth all the weird, finicky, movable fabric parts for a function like this. That being said, it does look a little bit like a jumble just because you want to be looking for a head and arms, recognizable parts of the human body. With this, there is none, so from certain angles, it just kind of looks like an incomprehensible blob, which is cool in its own right, if you like Lovecraftian horrors from beyond the stars, which I do. And as long as you have the stand in a certain position that offsets her weight, it holds her really well. Putting all her clothing back will be the interesting part. Let's see. Where did this go? All right. I'm being very not graceful. I'm not being very graceful about this, but I've got to kind of turn her around into different positions to get these plugs back in. It is nice having the plugs. It helps me remember what position she was in before. So yeah, those little pegs are lifesavers for when you want to put her back in her original position. So simple, even I could do it. And this little base helps too, because if you put her back together wrong, then it will be impossible to put her on this. Impeccably sculpted like all the other table museum figures. The detail varies on the art piece they're replicating, of course, but they always look exactly like the thing they're replicating. And this is no different. She looks awesome. Like I said before, I probably, without being able to tell, like her better the way she is without arms and a head. I usually prefer my women with arms and a head, but in this case I can make an exception. So let's look at this scale-wise. Here we have Aloy, who is a fan of Victory. Obviously not to scale since this sculpture is 18 feet high, but if you want to view this as like a person, then it fits really well. Taller by a head. And then you have another person who likes Victory. And that is Cassian Andor. One way out. Here we have two other Table Museum figures. We have the Scream, which has been so far my personal favorite, and an Easter Island head. These look great all together, and this in particular would make even just a really good backdrop for other figures, just having it in the background like an actual statue. But yeah, I love this line. Highly recommend if you can get your grubby little hands on some. They are expensive, unfortunately. And for some, I'm not sure they're worth the amount that they're being charged for. There are a few I've wanted and just haven't gotten because, you know, A, cost, and B, the cost really didn't make sense for what you get. But if you're a fan of action figures and a fan of art history, these are very cool. So this video is being posted before the week of Christmas. I hope you all have a great holiday. It's been a great year. The channel has grown a lot. I'm really thankful for everyone. As always, likes and subscribes are very much appreciated. Comments are more than welcome. And I will see you guys on the next one.